Hey everyone, welcome back. If you're new here, I'm Yuly. I'm a computer engineer in the US, and on this channel, I share how technology and optimization can help your businesses and your lives. And since I'm also a Turo host, I one of my content buckets is focused on helping Turo hosts optimize their car rental business. I'm super excited to start doing these live streams again. Last week was the first one, so this is the second. And I plan on continuing to do both these Turo live streams, but I'm also planning on starting just technology live streams where we'll be discussing tech problems, software applications, just business issues, business optimization, processes, automation, everything to help you with any business issues you may be having. So make sure to check both out. In today's live stream, we'll again dive deep into strategies, updates, and much more Turo related, with an emphasis on data, technology, efficiency, and more. And it's again going to be an awesome stream because we're going to again have Brian, who should be joining us for every live stream going forward. So let's bring him on. Hello there.
I'm on mute. Okay. I have to say, while we just broke a second ago, my camera disconnected like 5 times. So if it happens again, it's something going on.
And it just did. So I'm glad he warned us about it. Well, while he's getting his camera situated, like I said last time, Brian's a Turo host who, like me, he's super data driven, analytical. And so again, I'm sure that every time we have these lives where we bring Brian on, you're gonna find his insights super valuable. So last time we kind of ran out of time because we had all these items on our list to go over. We also had a ton of questions, which was really cool. So we tried to get through as many as we could, but we had to kind of rush through a lot of the topics. So today, if anybody joins, and I know that there's a chance that there's not going to be that many people on these live streams because I'm just starting now after 7 or 8 months. And also it's been very short notice, so there may not be that many. So, but if people do come on and you have questions, just make sure to put them in the comments, and we'll give those priority. But if not, we're just going to continue to kind of go through the list of things that we didn't get to go in too deep into last time. So unfortunately, Brian is having camera issues, which he did not have the entire 30 minutes while we were testing or chatting, getting ready for this. Um, so while he
It
is
was as soon as you put me onto
all
the
right,
background,
so
I got lost. Am I there
hopefully
now? Sorry.
all right. So I was just letting everybody know. So again, if we won't go into the details that we went into last time, explaining, about Brian and his Turo journey, his history, and then what his future he is hoping to look like. And if you want to check that out, just check out last week's live stream and you'll get all of those details. But for now, he'll just mention sort of like what his current Turo business is looking like.
Yeah. Well, hi everyone. So currently 25 cars. It says it on the bottom. I'm in Seattle, Washington. We have 25 cars. We operate 99% all out of the airport. Have 3 employees, so a total of 4 of us right now. Definitely more people than we need at the moment, but planning on adding plenty more cars soon. But yeah, I'm a huge car enthusiast, so that's me in a nutshell.
Cool. And since this time we don't really have all this crazy structured outline, do you want to tell everybody like in what period you started with like one car, but then you got two. So
Yeah, March
within a
March 2023, 1 car. June, second car. October, quit my job and 3 more cars. So starting in October, I just started adding more cars. So October of last year, exactly a year ago, was when I quit my job and started doing this full time. By the end of the year, I believe I had 8 cars. 1, 2, 3 plus 3 is 6. 8 cars at the end of 2023, and I couldn't tell you how many cars per month after that, but I got up to about 28 cars, and then we lost 29 cars, and we lost 3 cars in the process. So, and 1 car right now has been stolen for the 3rd time. And we hope to never find that car at this point because I'd like to get paid for it.
So yeah, so within a year and a half, he was like, "Oh, this is nice," and he just kept adding cars, and here we are, 25 cars.
Yeah.
In case anybody's curious, I'm always curious as to like how how people start adding cars to their fleet, like how long it takes them, when they decide, how they go about it. So, in case anybody was curious, that's how. So do you want to start? I think we talked about starting right into um, the Turo updates that we didn't really get to go into too much in
Well,
detail last time.
what I'll say is, yeah, we have a list of stuff that we didn't go deeper on the last one. But also, if there's topics that anyone out there listening wants to cover, throw them into the messages, and either we could cover those on the spot or queue them up as we get closer to the end of our little list here. But where do you want to start, Yuly?
Awesome. Yeah. So the first thing
nice
we have here on our the angering update or topic.
No. The long trip. Yes, the angering update topic for update. Yes, that's exactly it.
So the first one we want to mention is for any hosts out there, and some of you may have already seen this happen, but I know that they've been making some changes, and I know, I'm guilty, like many other hosts, of not really sitting down and studying thoroughly every time one of these comes through. However, I think some of us think sometimes that we that nothing is going to come through, that it's going to be so significant, right? As the one I'm about to mention. Um, and so you kind of push it off to the side, but definitely please make sure you read every single one of these updates that are coming through. There's people that I think don't even know yet that the dynamic pricing and how it works, and that there's no longer a minimum and a maximum. I mean, if you go on Reddit, you can see people talking everybody is saying something different. Oh, but you can still put in a min and a max, and they're like, no, that's before, things are changing now. And so there's all this like crazy information. So definitely just read into these updates or join these live streams. We're going to try to make sure to really go in depth into right now we're not ready with 100% of them, but that's the plan. But I did want to mention this one, which is like the discounts, this whole monthly limit thing that they recently added, where where you're able to add monthly mileage mileage limits and then allow your car to be rented for longer periods, say like 2 or 3 months. And then they have this scale that the system allows you to, depending on the mileage limit that you've entered, it gives you these percentages of discounts that you have to put in place. The bottom line is that without me choosing anything, it was automatically in place as soon as it went into effect. And so just to give you an idea, somebody just rented one of my cars 2-3 days ago for 90 days. And just for reference, a 7-day trip, I had just earned, it was about $400, right? For a 7-day trip. This trip is a 90-day trip, and I'm earning $800, 800-ish, which is crazy. That barely covers like, car payment and insurance. And the reason is they gave Turo had automatically placed 70% discounts on the 3-month trip. So I went in and I'm not ready to show it today. I'll have it ready for next week, where I did an analysis, basically breaking it down and seeing like what it should have been had my discounts been in place, which is like 20% or 15%. I mean, because at the end of the day, if you're already getting good utilization because you're a good host, because you do good, you have good reviews, your cars are well maintained, and so you have good utilization, there's no reason why you would ever have to give a 70% discount for somebody to have the car 3 months. Because if your car's already getting booked a lot, then of course, and of course, longer trips. These cars are already getting booked 15, 20-day trips. I am okay with cleaning the car 3, 4 times and during that period, then cleaning it only once and delivering it only once in 90 days, but then making 70% less. It just doesn't, the math just doesn't, add up. So just make sure you go ahead and take and look into that if you have not. You go in right now. I can actually tell you, I'll find um unfortunately Brian's camera. We'll bring it back in. um So I will find the exact location in a minute to tell you where to go to look through these. But it's basically, you'll see it. It even has a little, when you go into each individual car, it even has like a little new uh text next to it, and I believe it's called like the monthly discounts. And I'm sorry, but I have everything closed right now. Um, so in the meantime, we actually have some questions. Brian, you want to bring these, or some comments maybe. Let's see. So
Yeah.
Pierre Robert says, I had 6 cars, one was totaled on a trip. My goal is to get 20 cars. I'm thinking of partnering up with people that would like to put their vehicles to work.
Okay. So specifically, what you're saying here, and Pierre Robert, that's all. There's two comments there. One is a goal, right? And then another is a comment based on what we were talking about with these new updates. Let's talk about this one on the screen. Um, yeah, I mean, what I would say is I have a lot of the same goals, except it's a little different. Like I own 25 cars, and what my actually right now I own 20 cars, and 5 cars are not mine. So my goal now is to grow to, let's say, 50, 60, or 70 cars at a pace that I can keep up with, which should be a pretty quick pace, but not buy any more cars unless I absolutely feel the need to. So I would say that to get to 20 cars that are not yours may be a tough one because you have to kind of prove yourself before you start selling yourself to other people. So just keep that in mind. Like if you start off with a base of having 10 or 15 cars and you're running your business efficiently, you'll attract other people to want to invest in you versus just telling them that you can do it. Right. So, Pierre Robert, you have how many? You have 5 cars now? Or, well, I don't know if you could reply in the moment. I don't hear you, Yuly. You're muted.
Yeah, I muted myself. So it looks like they had 6 and then one got totaled.
Mhm. Yeah. So, um, I would say
He says,
look to get a few more cars and get yourself into a routine, create processes, have those in place so you can show other investors, and I say investors, but people who are going to invest in you, right? Like you want people to put their vehicles to work, and you're going to actually do the work, and they're going to have the passive income part of it. Then definitely, you know, start building your fleet and building your base, and then you'll be able to convey the your success and show others that you can be successful with their cars. Um, I would say just be careful. Make sure you can take it on and do it because their cars almost become priority over your cars. You have to take care of them a little bit better. They're not yours.
yeah, and at that point you need to
Yeah,
make
5,000.
sure, I mean, if you really want to start onboarding all these other cars, um I just started, since I just started doing one, um just took on one that's not mine. And so in doing this first one, as with everything I do, the moment I do something once and I need to do it again, I'm going to automate it. So, and I know you started doing that too, in the beginning too, writing, SOPs,
Mhm.
checklists for onboarding cars. what checklist do you need to give the owner of the car, the co to be able to co-host their car. So do you have two keys? Can I have, if so, can I have them? In my case, so I ask them, for example, for the registration. So what I've been doing in my cars is we have to have the registration in the car, but what I do is I go in and I Photoshop and I block out the address so that the guest does not have if it's your home address on your registration, you're not just there, with your home address being shown. So we're for the most part, like that's something we don't think about. We're listing another random location as a home address so people don't come to our houses, but yet our home list it usually is listed on the registration. So that's one thing. So that's one thing that also on the list, like, hey, make sure to send me a copy of the registration so I can do that. So I can Photoshop out the address. I think I even leave like last initial or something. So you don't even have a full name. Um, and maybe one day a cop will get upset about that, maybe. But that's better than that's and that's fine. Um, and things like the Sun Pass. I mean, there's or the toll transponder. In
Yeah.
Florida, we have Sun Pass, but so yeah, definitely, want to start um, a checklist, your, standard operating procedures, things that you could, not only are they going to help you in running your business, but these are things that you can provide these people to say, hey, look, this is how we run, you know, our business. These are the fees you're going to get. This is how, just have, these are the reports you're going to be getting on a monthly basis. I mean, just like with any other business, something you could show it's, this is an investor that you're going to, do a proposal for. And so I mean, that obviously that'll be eventually but that's what you should be aiming for. Let's bring up Mark here. Says, do you do any marketing to bring customers to your Turo site?
I don't at all. I think I will say that Turo Turo does wonders in marketing. They I don't have any issues. So from the very start, I thought about creating a website, kind of mirroring the Turo site, and then pointing each listing towards the Turo car. So I'd almost have like a mirror image of it, and then paying to do, you know, some paid search and having people looking for. But I haven't found the need to do it. Like I would say that I've never been slow. I've never been at a point where I think that I need some outside help in order to drive business to to my my Turo, right? Account. I'll say that like this is the first summer I really went through with Turo. Like I had two cars last summer, and they were booked all the time. But coming from a winter where you have cars that have gaps, so some cars sit for 2 or 3 days at a time. Some cars, I don't think I've ever had a car sitting for a week, but 2 or 3 days between trips happens, right? But the summer came, when June came, we had no cars. I actually found myself on more than one occasion with no way to get home. Like I literally was stranded. And I'll also say that like I've in my life I've had 3 or 4 cars at one time during the course of my life because I love cars so much. And now I literally, up until last week, don't own a car. So like I truly depended on taking one of the cars from the fleet home. And there were multiple times where I had to figure out a ride home. So, you know, my wife has a car dedicated to her, but she's not always available to pick me up. So, that was a huge stress. So basically, I will say that I don't need to drive any business towards my Turo listings at the moment. And I feel like also when there are cars sitting, one, they get a little bit of a break. So, I can't tell you the ridiculous amount of mileage that gets put on these cars. 250 miles a day can add up if people are staying within their mileage limits, and the cars are utilized all the time. It adds up. The summer really like put a lot of mileage on my fleet.
Yeah, and like you said, yeah, I've thought about it, but I've never needed it. And then if you think about it, you think about starting to pay for marketing. The difference here is that when you typically pay for marketing in other businesses, you're driving those people to your business. Whereas here, you're driving these people to Turo, and it's only a click away to just jump onto another
Car.
host's cars. And when they see, oh, well, I have 500 cars to choose from, there's nothing that's going to keep them in your, you know, on your, unless they know you and they're a pastor and they got referred to you by someone or something like that. So really, you're just paying for the potential of sharing uh with
Here's
other
where
hosts.
I would say, if you want to be savvy and you don't have that many cars, like let's say you have 20 cars or less, and you want to do private rentals and get a private rental agreement and find the right kind of insurance, and you want to do private rentals, and now you're controlling each booking, right? You have to have a process in place for it. And then you could also take the quote unquote risky ones and move them onto your Turo website. So like the ones that you don't want to take on the risk, you could literally have them book through Turo. You could book them through the Turo website, or kind of drive them there to book the car through Turo. So then Turo covers you with their insurance program, right? But like at the end of the day, you are allowed to have your cars listed and you're allowed to do private rentals. You can't have your car listed on a competitive website like GetAround or one of those other ones, but you can do private rentals. But I personally think that there's
But you have to have your insurance. That's a big
well, there are third party,
consideration.
yeah, but so you could also not have insurance as a fleet. And then there are, and I have to remember the names of the companies, but there are companies that do insurance per trip. So you make the guest purchase insurance for the trip. It's the only way to do it. Like, how you have optional insurance when you book a car through Turo? There's a third party that they'll charge the guest for insurance as part of the booking. So the guest has insurance on every trip. You can ensure that that's the case. But there's a whole ton of work. Like, what if someone wants to book a car? Like, that's a lot of work. Turo automates everything. Like, I can't imagine getting the paperwork together, sending out something to get sending out some kind of agreement, charging them. Like, you need a processing system for that. Like, HQ Rentals
Well, at
does it,
that
but
point,
yeah,
yeah, no, I was gonna say, at that point, you also need, like, customer service because now you're expected to answer phone calls. Like, right
just
now, they can call Turo.
yeah,
They would call
just the
you
idea.
instead.
Yeah, I mean, I'll give you an example. I had a car the other day. So we live in Seattle. I don't know if anyone knows the Seattle market, but there are 3 national parks here. None of them have cell service if you're in it. That's pretty much it, right? One of them is Mount Rainier, which is one of the tallest mountains in the United States. And like there was someone who hit an object on the road, blew out 2 tires of the car, and he was pulled off on the side of the road and had no cell service. So getting a tow to him was absolutely crazy. But literally, like, I had 3 phone calls with Turo that evening, just trying to like relay, because he was texting me. He can get text messages out, but couldn't take a phone call. And I'm sitting there talking to the dispatch while he's texting. So if you had to do that on your own, I couldn't imagine having to send a tow company to a mountain. I say the mountain because we call it the mountain here, but to the mountain to get the car and have it delivered somewhere and coordinate all that. And then how much is that going to cost? Who's paying for that? That tow was not $125. The tow was probably like $600 to tow a little Toyota Prius. But anyway, so yeah, there's a
Yeah, so
lot
that's a
to do with
huge
that.
consideration for private. I
Yeah.
mean,
So personally, I don't want
I feel like
the liability or the risk of doing private rentals. So Mark, that's the long answer. The short answer is I don't do anything.
and do you wanna also touch on the fact that this is the thing, you and I talk about sometimes, which is the fact that we ask certain people, friends, acquaintances, and they have no idea what Turo is. And you're like, that's amazing because our cars are constantly booked, considering that probably, I don't know what percentage, but a big percentage of people we talk to have no idea what Turo is. And do you
I,
want to talk about that and the whole IPO and
yeah, well, I mean that's not a fact yet, but I mean it's pretty factual. They've
it's
filed with the uh, SC. So anyway, um, so my thought here is that first of all, Turo is growing, and if you look at where Turo was a year or 2 years ago, they were definitely a platform where people would share things, right? So there's some kind of like one hand washes the other concept. I don't know if you used Turo years ago, but you could charge people to wash the car. Like that was a fee. Trip cleaning, right? They
There's still people
did
that
away
still
with
have that on, which is crazy.
that. People put it in their comments like, hey, there's a cleaning fee, but they have no right to charge it, and they can't charge it. And if
Yeah,
they could
it's
try to
crazy.
charge it, but like, but anyway, so Turo right now, and I actually had this conversation with my my account manager at Turo just today. Turo has grown to a point where they're now actually a piece of the car rental market versus just some like experiential way of getting a ride. So Turo is um, right now growing at a pace where they're actually taking market share from other car companies. And when I'm saying taking market share, if you think about it in the past, if you've ever rented a car from Hertz or Avis or whatever, it's not an experience at all. So people are just renting a car and they don't even know what they're going to get until they get to the window and they give them a car. This is what you're going to get. So the whole concept of car rental in many cases isn't an experience. And the guests who are renting from Avis and Hertz and all that, they don't really want an experience. They want actually zero experience. They want to be able to get the car, go and go where they have to go and then come back. So being that Turo is taking share from all these other companies, we're getting a new breed of guests who want no nonsense. They don't care if they're renting a 2 Series BMW or a 4 Series BMW or a Honda Accord. It's really the price that they paid for the car is what's the most important to them, and to have no hassle. So if you notice, Turo's marketing is saying skip the lines. Like that's a huge push for them right now. Honestly, it's the biggest thing I hated about car rental companies, the wait. Just sitting there waiting. That's why I use National. You can go right to the aisle, they have it now, and you could just go get a car. It doesn't matter as long as you're part of their club. But skipping the line
And the
is
fact that
huge.
maybe sometimes get there, you have a reservation, but you really don't have a reservation. I've
You know,
literally gone up to the line and they said, "We don't have cars right now."
yeah. There's been times, right? And now the guest is truly reserving your car. There's a lot of caveats to that experience too that people don't ever consider. Like, oh, I'm going to extend my trip for a day, but you can't because someone else is renting that car tomorrow. So that's something that's something that a guest needs to consider when they use Turo, right? So, and then they also have to consider the fact that the rules apply to, or I would say that the host applies a set of rules that are not universal. So there's going to be different rules on this trip than if you picked it up from Hertz, or if you picked it up from Yuly, or if you picked it up from Brian. So, that is something that's important to be aware of. And I think that this new all-star host criteria, right? I think it's a big part of it. Like Turo is cleaning up their profile right now. They're elevating themselves to the level of like customer satisfaction and customer service better than what they've had before, because it's going to be time to either get acquired or IPO soon. So at the end of the day, they have to put this package together in order to do it.
Bring up this early on. I had missed this. So thank you, Yuly, for giving us, and Brian, for giving us the knowledge price list. It's tough out here for us Turo hosts. Yes, it's funny how big some Turo hosts have gotten. They have these huge fleets, and yet it's kind of like you're learning as you go. Because I mean, we talk about this all the time. Turo doesn't really. They're not a management company. Like they haven't yet caught on with the fact that it's no longer a peer-to-peer, car sharing platform. It's become this platform where, hosts have 50, 25, 50, 100 cars.
Let me make an analogy here. Analogy, is that the right word? I think so. So let me draw a line into things. And I worked for Amazon for a few years, for many years, and I really, really, really loved the culture, and I loved the principles that they operated on, and I loved how they work. If you go onto Amazon and buy something, you're not necessarily. I think we all know this at this point, but Amazon makes it very seamless. When you buy something on the Amazon website, you're not always buying it from Amazon. You're buying it on their marketplace, and there's tons of different sellers that sell through Amazon. Some of them ship all their merchandise to Amazon, so Amazon is truly fulfilling all their orders, and some of them directly ship the stuff to you. Like, you could buy a widget on Amazon and it gets shipped from my house to you directly. Amazon actually never handles it. They just make the sale. It's their marketplace. And I don't know if you follow financial news or anything like that, but like if you read the financial news or the news about companies like Amazon, they continuously make it harder for their marketplace sellers to be on that marketplace. It is a continuous problem. Someone wrote in here, right, that they're making it harder for the hosts. Absolutely, they're going to make it harder for the hosts. It's not going to get easier for the hosts. Turo is trying to create a certain experience for the guests. They have the hosts right now, right? So what's going to happen is the guests will have this new experience, and they're going to make it harder for the host to meet the criteria, and they're going to get rid of the hosts that don't want to deal with it. So I think being ready for things to get harder before they get easier is something that we need to be prepared. We need to be prepared for if we want to stay on Turo.
It kind of feeds into this question, where it said, according to the new All-Star host requirements, there's a section for maintenance. What does that mean?
Well, do we want to go over the new All-Star host criteria?
So yeah, I thought we're gonna go over it anyway. So I thought I'd bring this up because it sort of feeds into the whole, like, they're trying to clean up things. I mean, they've gotten stricter with the maintenance.
Yeah.
And I think this is what this
There's
is referring
5
to.
points that are important: 5-star rating, maintenance rate, cleanliness rate, cancellation rate, and completed trips. Right. So we'll start with the easiest one. The old All-Star host criteria: to be an All-Star host, and by the way, to be a power host. I don't know if we all know about power host, but to be a power host, you must meet the All-Star host criteria. You must have 4 cars on Turo and have $36,000 of income over a rolling 12 months. So 12 months back, every quarter they look, if you have $36,000 of income plus 4 cars on Turo, you now qualify to be a power host if you're an All-Star host. So push that aside. Completed trips. You need to have 20 trips. The old All-Star host criteria was 10 trips. So in a 3-month period, you need to have 20 trips. Is it in a quarter or a year? I think it's a quarter, right? It's a quarter?
It has to be quarter, because you get evaluated every
quarter.
Right?
Well, yeah, but every quarter could be a rolling 12 months. So I have to, let me look right here. I have it right here. It's a completed trips. Well done, completed trips, or it doesn't tell me. Okay. So it's in a year.
I have not studied this.
It's a year. You have to have 20 trips in a year. Sorry. Okay. I have 876 trips in the last 12 months. And it tells me I need to have 20 to do it. So I have a green light there on my All-Star host criteria.
A little bit, just a little over.
So then the cancellation rate: less than 3 of your trips can be canceled. 3%. Sorry, 3%. So if you have 100 trips, you're allowed up to 3 in the last 12 months. You can't cancel trips. It used to be, I don't remember what it used to be. I've never ever canceled a trip. I have 0. Cleanliness. So cleanliness and maintenance are exactly the same criteria. 80% ratings for all completed trips. And then there's 5-star host rate. It's 85% overall 5 stars for all completed trips. And the key word on all 3 of those is the all word: all completed trips. It used to be you had to have 90% 5-star rating. Now it's 85%. You have to have a 90% 5-star rating for all reviewed trips. So if you did 10 trips and you had 7 reviewed trips that were 5 stars, you were at 100%. Now, if you do 10 trips and you have 7 trips that are 5 stars and 3 people didn't rate you, you're at 70%. Yuly, does that make sense what I said?
Yes.
I'm making sure.
I
So,
hate it.
well, I think it's good. I think it's good. I don't think it's great.
I mean,
I think it's good.
I know we talked about that. How can you be rated on something you cannot control? You have no
Well,
control. And I get your reasoning, and
let me
we'll
share my
we'll go
reasoning.
into what, his specific question was about the maintenance. So we'll
Yeah,
we'll
it's
get
the
into
same
that
thing.
because
It's the same thing. So,
now there's a section on maintenance. Before there was no metrics you had to meet for it. I'm looking at the old criteria versus updated criteria.
yeah, there was no
Um,
maintenance criteria, right? But they want to also now make sure
yeah.
they have good cars on Turo, right? Like really good cars. So let's talk about the maintenance part of it, and then we'll talk about the 5-star rate part of it as well. So when you rate a trip, even if you didn't leave a review, a written review, okay, when you go in to rate that trip, it says, how was your experience on Turo? Could you rate your experience on Turo? I don't know if we've all used Turo, and I've used Turo at least 20 times. So, and I pay very close attention to that review process. So I understand how people are reviewing me. So whether I leave a review written or not, I hit 5 stars, 4 stars, 3 stars, 5 stars. I've always given 5-star reviews pretty much. Um, I gave a 5-star review. Let's say I choose not to write anything. I hit submit. The next thing it's going to ask you is how many stars do you give for maintenance? You could say 5 stars right there. You have to answer these questions. You could say 5 stars right there. If you say 4, 3, 2, 1, it'll then give you a list of things that automatically populate that under maintenance, what could have been wrong. So it would be things like check engine light came on. It would be things. So it's provoking people to say these things. Like I had a car a week and a half ago that the maintenance light came on, meaning it's time to get an oil change. The guest alerted me that the maintenance light came on. And I said, that's great. We're going to take it in for an oil change as soon as you return the car. Thanks for letting us know. It's unfortunate that these events are timed by the car and not by you. There is a way around that, but we'll talk about that at another time. But the maintenance light came on. So for him, the maintenance light came on. He had a 5-star experience. He wrote a great review for me. But I also was able to detect that he wrote
And he's back. At
I was
least it's very quick.
he put
So
well, I'm
you're
ready
saying you were able to detect.
that he put a low oil light on the thing because it asked him maintenance. So he didn't give me 5 stars for maintenance. I don't know what he gave me. He probably gave me 4 stars for maintenance. But it asked him why he gave the 4 stars. And it's not asking him to write anything. He just has to tap a button. He could tap low oil light, low tire pressure, this, that, or whatever he wants to write, or tap, I mean, and it'll do that. So 80% of all trips need to be 5-star maintenance. All trips. So if they don't review the trip, it goes against you. If they don't review the trip, it's the same thing as giving you 1 star. If they don't review the trip, it's like not giving you 5 stars. So, and my theory, and it aligns with what Turo said in their newsletter, but my theory is, and I truly behave this way too. Sometimes people don't want to give a bad review. So I was kind of taught that if you don't have anything good to say, don't say anything. My grandmother would tell me that. If you have nothing good to say, don't say anything. So rather than giving someone a negative review, I don't say anything because I don't want to cause a problem for them, maybe, or I don't want to bring on bad karma. But in this case, Turo is asking you to provoke good reviews. Ask for them. They need to get their reviews up. They need more positive reviews on their website. They need more interaction from their guests. That's what they want. They may change this in a year from now, but right now, this is what it is. You need to get reviews.
I agree with that. I just don't like the idea of
They're holding you accountable for it.
getting getting those that just failed to give a review because they were very busy and was like, I'll deal with it, and then the time expired. Like I'm sure has happened to many. And I mean, and for the most part, I get reviewed on most of my trips. I'd want to check, what that percentage is. So it's not like, oh, it happens to me all the time. And I just don't like the idea of getting something counting against you when it was just because they failed to, they didn't have time, they forgot, and then the time expired because they have a certain number of days to do it. That's the part that's kind of, and I guess, we'll see how it goes, and maybe they'll think of tweaking it if, they realize something is not
And
working.
another hypothesis I have on this whole thing is it's not that hard to be an all-star host. You go into Turo's marketplace, everyone.
Guys, sorry, we have no idea why this is happening. It was not happening. We spoke for 30
I know
minutes before
exactly
this
why it's happening.
live.
I know exactly why it's happening. If anyone wants to put in the chat how you, and Yuly, don't make fun of me for having an iPhone. When you have an Apple computer and an iPhone near each other, it allows you to use the iPhone as a mic or a camera. And the computer keeps thinking I want to use my iPhone, and it's trying to connect to the iPhone, and then it disconnects. So if
Well, can't
anyone
you
knows
just
how
put it on airplane mode?
yeah, but then I can't get a
Oh, but you
message.
can't because you can't because you're, or
I'm
turn
a
off your
host
Bluetooth.
24/7
Turn off the Bluetooth. The only way it's connecting is through Bluetooth.
or Wi-Fi. But
So
I'm
turn
not
off
going to be honest.
the
I'm not
Wi-Fi.
going to lie to you. I had both
If you turn off
Bluetooth
the
and
Wi-Fi and you and you turn off the Bluetooth, you can still get your guests. He's just wants to make sure he gets any guest messages that he is on duty for at the moment.
they're both off right now. Let's see if this.
I will bring up some messages as you take care of that. Um, so I know we did this one before, but just want to bring it up again. When he first came in,
Hello, friend.
Famu said, "Hello, friends." Um, this was back when we were talking about you not having any cars. Pierre said, "LOL, that's where I'm at now. I had to get a monthly bus pass because he has no cars that he's able to take home sometimes."
Yeah, it's
And
definitely not economical to use an Uber. That's for sure.
um, there's two questions here that are sort of so we'll bring up Mark's where he says, "What type of vehicles do you find rent the most? Compact, midsize, or luxury?" So I mean, right off the bat, this is very dependent on like your market, you know. But
I'll
for the most part,
I'll,
Brian,
I'll throw my. I disagree.
you do?
I do. I think. Um, I think that these three. Um, so the three categories that he gave here are not all. I wouldn't call them accurate, right? So compact is a category, midsize is a category, and luxury is not a category of size. It would be full size. And I'm not trying to pick on things, but I am saying there's luxury and there's economy. And that is what rents economy. You can't go wrong in any market for economy, especially what I just said earlier, whereas Turo's truly competing with the big boys. Hertz, Avis, their loyalty club is huge, but economy is a big part of what they offer. So economy cars work. My Chevy Spark, my Fiat, my Elantras. I have three Elantras, a Chevy Spark, a Fiat. I have a lot of economy cars, right? They're always rented, and the difference is my luxury cars get booked out 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 months in advance, right? So I may have a rental for 2 weeks or a week and a half on an expedition in January, right? That rental is likely not going to get canceled. It's a solid booking because the full size luxury of that car is what people are coming for. Whereas economy cars don't get booked far out in the future. They're getting booked within a week, sometimes within a day, but they're always turning over. You need to wash and clean and pick up those cars a lot more, but they're small. So they're really easy to clean and maintain, and they're cheaper to maintain in most cases. They're economy cars. Fixing them are cheaper. Brakes are cheaper, you know? So as an answer to the question, economy cars are the best. And think about what the rental companies offer, and I would mimic it because they're familiar to people. Malibu and Fusion. Ford's rental car is the Fusion. It was the Fusion. And Chevy's rental car was the Malibu. If you rented a car, chances are you've been given the option of a Malibu or a Fusion. They're very reliable. They're cheap to maintain. They're comfortable, and they're a mid-size economy car. My Fusion gets like 32 miles to the gallon. People love it. It rents all the time. I don't like Chevy products, so I avoid them other than my Spark. But yeah.
But still do think that your market sometimes is going to dictate what you should probably
Look,
have more than.
absolutely. So I have a lot of SUVs, all-wheel drive SUVs. If I was in Yuly's market in Florida, I don't think I'd need an all-wheel drive car at all, my fleet. There's no reason to spend more money on all-wheel drive. It doesn't make any sense. By the way, minivans, economy cars and minivans, always there are only 4 minivans that are made. The Pacifica, the Sienna, the Kia Carnival, and the Honda Odyssey. That's it. There's nothing else made anymore. There's a shortage of minivans in the rental market. Get a minivan.
The other thing too is, to take into account is your specific situation. Because
Yes.
if you're at a point where Brian is, where he has, 25 cars, he has a few staff members, and I'm sure even with 2, you don't have to have 3, but maybe with 2, even with 1, um, you're able to handle these, constant, the constant turning around of the cars, um, that you're gonna have to do with economy cars. You're gonna, for example, what is the minimum, trip length that you have set for most of your cars?
All of my cars, the minimum trip length is 2 days.
2 days. So, chances are with a lot of these economy cars, you're going to be getting them for 2, 3 days. Because if you think about it, we think, "Oh, well, a weekend." Well, weekend is really just 2 days, Friday to Sundays on, just do weekend trips. And that's there ready to handle the car. So the continuous having to clean and pick up and is not such a burden. Whereas if you're just. Mhm.
No,
I
I
saw
was
you
going
wanted to.
to. I thought of something else that I was going to jump in, but you can finish your thought before I stop you. Keep going.
So, if it's just you and maybe, your friend or your spouse or your relative that's helping you, and so you're gonna think twice about, well, do I really wanna have to deliver a car every 2 days? Let's say this is a $30 a day car or even a 40. By the time what is it? Let's say $80 in 2 days, and that's minus Turo fees, minus, whatever. That's $80. How much did time and effort did it cost you to clean that car, take it somewhere, assuming you may not have charged for delivery, but those are the things you have to think about, and I think it also comes into play when you try to decide, like, what type of car. You have to think about these things because they really can you can end up netting, negative on a trip because, you know, you took it to a place, you couldn't get it clean, it cost you $30, $40 to clean, and now it was a 2-day trip or a 1-day trip. So, for example, I have a minimum on the Suburban of 5 days, and not just because of this, but here's something that I thought of, and Brian, I'm curious what you think about this, but the one thing I have thought of is I wonder how many of my so on average, the Suburban is rented. I've had a 56-day trip. I've had a number of 30 something day trips. On average, it's rented 13-day trips. So 9 to 13. So average, like, I think the average was exactly 13 days. And I think about sometimes, what if I had not set it to a 5-day minimum? How many of these 20 or 13-day trips would I have lost out on because somebody wanted to rent the car for 2 days and had it Friday, Saturday, and it ate up into that 20-day trip that this person rented it for? And the Suburban's been rented almost its entire time. I think this is the first time now that it's been that it's sat for over a week. Otherwise, it's been out. So that's one of the things that I really think about.
I, I have to tell you, like, I would never do it. No, I just want to use the word never. I never thought I'd always thought if I put a 5-day rental in there, I was going to really prohibit some rentals. And I have to say, like, I have an Expedition. That's the car that's stolen right now. So it's my top earning vehicle, right? I have an Expedition. It was my personal vehicle at one point. It was the second vehicle I put on. I like the car. I have no real personal attachment to it. But I thought it would do great on Turo, and it has. In this region here, we get very few long-term rentals, like more than a week. This is like one of those places that are far off where this is, at least my story about Seattle is, it's one of those places that you really desire to visit because there is a lot of adventure here. And then, quote unquote, an Expedition is a great freaking vehicle to have here, right? So you want to rent your Expedition for your one bucket list trip to come to Seattle into the mountains and do some really great outdoorsy things here. And you're here, you only could get to do 5 days or whatever because we're far. You know, we're far, and there's huge population on the East Coast compared to the West Coast. So a lot of people, I get a lot of people coming in from Alaska, from California, but I get a shit ton of people coming in from the East Coast, right? So, and they're coming in for these great bucket list trips. Whereas in Yuly's market, I have family in Florida. I have no problem setting myself up for a trip to Florida for 10, 15 days. The climate is always, you know, in a week's time, it's not going to stop raining for 6 months, 7 months. Like, really, like, why would you want to come here? So I've thought about putting a 5-day on my Expedition and just seeing what happened, but I feel like the car will just sit around in the winter and never get rented. So I'm intrigued by the idea. And that car is hard to clean. It's a pain in the ass. There's 3 rows. You got to get in the car. It's not a minivan. A minivan, you could stand there with a vacuum. I mean, you can really just stand in the car and clean it.
It's a really big car to clean.
It's stuff under the seats, in and out. I mean, my Expedition's probably been the hardest car overall to clean. That and my Lexus GX 460 were the two, and both of those are my first 2 cars, and they're both, one was totaled 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, and the Expedition's stolen right now. So anyway, I like.
I mean,
I like the idea, but I think that I think that your market usually has more opportunity for 5-day rentals of a car like that than mine does. So, and you know,
and that's why I always say, no, sorry, go ahead.
What sucks about, I'm not a complainer. So what I'd like to see improved on the Turo platform is the ability to open it up for, like, I'd like to set an Expedition up for only 5-day rentals, but from May through September of next year. Like, the only things that are going to get booked for next year right now are 5-day rentals. Whereas I would take a 3-day rental tomorrow. Right.
Exactly.
So I'd like to be able to do that. That would be a nice feature to add on. I'm not complaining that they don't have it, but you know, it's a lot of work for them to do these things. And then it's also a lot of things for us as hosts to know and actually make it work right. So there's a lot of room for error if they create a feature that we don't utilize properly. Sorry, go ahead.
I mean, they just did that. They just did that with a ton of stuff.
Well, we'll learn.
Right now, there's a bunch of people that are going to be shocked when they get, if they get one of these trips and they see what I mean, just like everybody was shocked when, you know, they put the dynamic pricing and people just didn't read it and didn't, you know, and a $300 a day car got rented for $100.
Well, listen, I don't want to.
I mean, that is our fault for not reading, but it's also their fault for just setting this and letting.
No. Okay, let me talk about the $300 a day. You saw that on the Facebook group, and I didn't weigh in on that comment when we spoke about it, but that host believed the car was a $300 a day car.
Well, I mean, that's just an example. I've seen others.
And dynamic pricing is supposed to be analyzing the market. So I trust dynamic pricing over that host's word on that case, because I have
a car. One specific.
What?
That's just one specific example, but there are many. I mean, I know I had to go in and I upped my prices like 5 or 7% because I went through and I said, no, this car is never not utilized. So there's absolutely no reason why I would have to ever have these prices at this amount.
You will. I'll tell you why. Because what happens is all the hosts around you could be on dynamic pricing, and then you won't compete anymore. Your car will be out of the realm at that point. So you have to consider the market has changed in that way, meaning the Turo market. So if you're going to keep,
and that's why you have to keep analyzing as you go.
You have to, if you're going to keep the car, what I like to do is, okay, here's what I will do. So right now for me, I've turned off all custom pricing. It's 100% on dynamic. And I said for at least 1 month, probably for 2, I'm not going to touch it. I'm not even going to touch it. Not. And I'm not going to lie. I took Thanksgiving week and raised my prices a little bit. And I took Christmas week and raised my prices. But other than that, I'm 100% on automatic, on autopilot, dynamic pricing. What I will do is I will almost on a daily basis in the future take the dynamic pricing and highlight 3 months of prices and add 20% to the prices. And when I say 3 months, I will say that like I will take, we're in October now, I would take November, December, and January's prices, or maybe December through the next 6 months after that, and add 20% to future prices, future bookings, far out bookings, right? So because my concept is if people are booking your car out there like months in advance, your pricing is too low. My concept is that if your cars are getting,
Or you have a car that gets booked.
yeah, if you have, and by the way, this is also another thing that Turo, I believe, is doing to create an appeal is they want cars being booked in the future, like way out there. If you think about it, like I've worked for many companies, and being in sales, it's all about pipeline. What's in your pipeline? What's coming up? How much booked business do you have? Like not what you're doing today, not what you wrote yesterday in business. How much booked business do you have in the future? That's what Turo wants. They want a pipeline. They want to say that they're doing $1 billion, or they're doing X amount of millions of dollars this month, but they have this many billions of dollars booked business. So, and then they can have stability now. They can actually see where their revenue is going. Because remember, Turo doesn't own any of the cars. So
on that note, have you seen the thing? I think I glanced at it. I want to look into these things thoroughly, but I saw something about that they're gonna maybe be letting guests do like non-refundable bookings for a discount.
You mentioned
and I thought that was,
I read it too, and I forgot.
yeah, and I want to go back because I think again I haven't like thought about it, but I just off the top I think it's a good idea because I hate the fact that you can cancel up until 24 hours, and now there you are sitting with a car and that's probably not going to get booked.
I think that is, I don't know if that's opt-in, like you have to opt into that, but you would be giving guests a bigger discount to have a guaranteed rental, right? So they prepay for their rental, just like a hotel or a car. If I prepay for it, I mean, I don't know about anyone else on this, but like there have been so many times that I have booked car rentals with Hertz or National, and I booked sometimes with 3 different companies and just canceled the ones that I didn't want, or not even showed up, because you don't have to give them a credit card. They'll just hold your spot in line, right? So I could see this as being definitely a way to secure things on the calendar, and then if they cancel, you'll get paid for it, right? You'll still get paid for the trip because they can't get a refund. So I think it's good. It's good for hosts. It's good for Turo. It's good for guests. I think it's a win all the way around. But I think you have to be able to opt into that, because you're going to give a bigger discount for that, I think. And I'm willing to give a bigger discount on something that's booked in January to secure that spot.
You'll be able to plan your actual business a little bit more. You'll see your like actual cash flow more than.
By the way, I'll give you another example of cancellations, right? At 11:40 p.m. 3 nights ago, my phone starts ringing. I know it's someone from Turo calling me. It's 11:40 p.m. I have no idea who it is. The phone's ringing. I'm like, I'm not answering this. There's no way. So I happen to be able to fall back to sleep without this like churning through my brain. I wake up in the morning and I'm going to give the guest name out there. Like, hi, this is Lee Humphrey. I can't figure out how to log into the app. Please cancel my reservation. Thank you. Like, I've got 25 cars. I have no idea who the hell you are. I finally figured it out because I was able to search through my inbox and found the booking. But it's a car that's booked on October 31st for 3 days, and it's sitting there booked. I can't cancel it. So I know that this is going to be a problem for me. Come on, that car is going to last minute get canceled, or it's going to be a no-show, one or the other. But the good thing is it's a 3-day trip. If it becomes a no-show, I'll get paid for 2 of the 3 days at least. So it won't be a complete waste. But like, just talk about cancellations. Like, literally someone left me a voicemail saying, "Hi, please cancel my trip." No idea. And I've tried calling back 3 times and no response. It's a funny story.
We'll bring up Pierre. He says, I find economy cars rent out more.
Exactly.
Yeah, and again, well, yeah, but then you go back to what I mentioned, and again, maybe it wouldn't be such a pain if you had a whole team, or at least 1 or 2 staff members to deal with the.
I'm sorry. Go ahead. Let me think about this. The team part of it. First of all, in this chat, if people could respond right now to something, I don't know how responsive this chat thing is, but like, how many hosts here would love to do this full time and not? How many hosts here are doing this full time? Is anyone doing this full time?
I put it up. He's a power host. So, well, I don't know about full time though. Yeah, no, because he only has.
Actually, I don't want to say that. I want to know. And like, I thought about this, and like I said, I quit my job with owning 2 cars at that point, and then started buying cars. If you put a plan in place on how you could acquire cars, like where you can get money, right? I wouldn't put a plan in place on how you can have. That's great. 1 car is great. Pierre Robert is full time. 1 car, okay. Oh, you keep putting up the full time. Okay, you're toggling them.
Sorry.
I have an employee doing it full time for us. Mark, how many cars do you have? Oh wait. So what I'll say is 7 cars for now. Okay. What I'm going to say is this: you have to think about how many cars you need to be profitable, or at least to sustain with how many people. But once you start getting more cars, certain things become easier, right? So if you deliver to an airport, like, so what I did was,
Famuki fee, since I need to step my game up.
Yeah. If you deliver, so what we did was, I'd say it's me and Celia who started this with me. It's a lot of conversations. I throw everything against my wife too, like talk to her about things, see what her opinion is. She has a full-time job. She does not want to be bothered with this at all. Other than at the dinner table, we have conversations about it. She's cool for that. But
or guest interruptions.
Yeah. So I created I figured out where I was going to get money to do this. And I then put a plan in place, understanding certain things like custom deliveries don't work for me. They don't. So I allow custom deliveries on trips that are 5 days or more, and there's a $120 delivery fee no matter what. Okay. So you have to book a 5-day or more trip for a $120 delivery fee, and you need to book it a minimum of, I think it's 3 days in advance. So I'm not getting surprised with some custom delivery. That's number one. And then this is all about growth. Like, at the end of the day, we only deliver to the airport and the train station right outside the airport. That's it. We don't deliver anywhere else. So our entire business is about around one place, really. It's the airport. I have the Bluetooth and the Wi-Fi off.
It's anyway, Apple.
The light rail and the airport, the light rail leaves you one stop. So we're like, it's one place we're really going to. And if, especially Pierre Robert, if you have 5 cars and you're doing it yourself, you know this already. If you have a car returned to the airport and you have a car being delivered to the airport, that's your ride back, right? You drive one car into the airport, you get the ride back with the other car. You create rules. You create policies that allow you to operate your business with freely. So like we tell all of our guests that parking is the maximum parking fee. Like I basically tell guests that, so my airport is a $37 daily parking fee. So I don't tell guests that the parking is a maximum of $37. I tell guests the parking is $37, not a maximum, because when you tell guests that it's a maximum of $37, they expect you to deliver the car as close to the time as possible. So it will be less than $37. They expect you to have their wallet in your mind, like to care about them and their, I care about them, but meaning to care about the cost of the parking. I tell everyone it's $37 no matter what, which gives me the freedom to deliver within 24 hours of the trip start. This way, we schedule our deliveries, meaning our internal schedule, around our returns. So we have enough cars now where we always have, many days we have 3 cars coming into the airport and 4 cars going out. So, and there's more than one of us. So sometimes we'll drive 2 cars in and take 1 car out. 3 cars in, take 1 car out, because we have multiple people. But if it's just one person, you drive a car in, you have a ride out. You drive a car in, you have a ride out. You drive a car in, you have a ride out. You do a bunch of laps and you get your stuff done. And it's super easy that way. You're not thinking about how you're getting around. So things do get easier when you have more cars. And for us, like I said, we have the light rail delivery. So sometimes we'll drive a car is getting returned to the light rail, but a car is getting picked up from the airport. So we drive a car into the airport, take the light rail over to the light rail lot, and then drive that car home. So it's a lot of coordination internally, but it streamlines the process when we have multiple cars because we have a lot more opportunities to get around.
Well, and that's why, we go back to, and there you are. We go back to the whole idea of like you have to see what works for you specifically at your current situation. Again, in my case, I don't do it. I had relatives helping me. Um, I cannot focus on the physical aspect of it yet. And so if I can have a car out there as long as possible, then that's what I prefer. Obviously, that's not always, the case, but just to give you an example, it goes kind of, it's similar to like, so I had a comment that I've been meaning to do a video on. I told you about this recently, where somebody said, "What do you mean you only have?" And this was I had done a video for 2023, like through August, and I had said that I had like whatever number, um, and a very low number of trips. And so I the other day I went through and I looked at them again because I was starting to try to do a video on it, and I ended up it was like $19,000 in revenue for that one car, and I had 18 trips. So, and a lot of people don't. So that's why you look at that car's trips and it has such a low number of trips, and it's because yeah, the car's on like 13-day trips on average. And that just I'm just saying is just to show how that is possible. It just depends on the type of car. It depends on, like you said, the market. Does it lend itself to that? Well, yeah, in our case, South Florida, a lot of people fly in from other countries. A lot of people, I've had guests that guys. I've had guests that plan these, family trips for, a year, for months in advance. And so they want to make it, they're flying in from all over. Most of the people that have rented the Suburban have been international. And, so they make it worthwhile. And so they plan this trip for really long lengths. And so again, it goes back to like, well, do you have is it are you full-time running? And so you don't care that you have to be constantly turning the cars around, like, you're fine with it, just you just want the revenue, and you happen to have, let's say you have 15 economy cars. Okay, well, at that point, it becomes a very, it becomes more lucrative. But if you're just a person that has, 2 cars, 3 cars, 5 cars, um, and you don't have that, flexibility of having a full-time, because at 5 cars, you can't hire somebody full-time, even part-time, because you can't expect, because the cars are, it's sporadic. It's, it's not a, hey, 9 to 5 or 9 to 2 or nine, Monday through Friday. No, it's whenever you need them. And nobody's going to give up their life like that. Nobody's going to say, yes, I'll be on call for 10 hours a week, unless they're a person who happens to be retired and just want to do this for fun, whatever the case is. But otherwise, you're not going to really easily be able to get that. So the only hope, like in my case, which I'm kind of trying to do now, is maybe partner up with, Brian and I had talked about this, and he had suggested, hey, maybe partnering up with, a bigger host that has maybe 15, 20 cars, maybe 10, and maybe share an, at that point you can both invest in a staff, that's going to be there, part-time or full-time, and share that expense and have enough work to give that person to be able to make it worth the expense.
What I'll say on that, by the way, I may have skipped this over, but like skipped over this in the last one, but like I had, still sort of have a partner, not a partner, like an actual business partner, like where we have finances intertwined. But through the whole winter, I had met this person who lives right near the airport, like 2 miles from the airport, like 6-minute drive into the airport. There's not traffic from this person's house to the airport. This person's a Turo host. I met him on one of the Turo groups, and I truly was able to grow my business because of this person's participation and help, where we shared a lot of expenses. I had an employee from day one. This person's solo, right? This person has 15 cars, and at that point in time, I had 10 cars. But
We are definitely going to figure this out for next time. Right, Brian? We're definitely going to figure out his horrible Apple issue.
You know what? I have 2 phones. I wonder if it's the other phone. So anyway, what I did was I started to consider sharing expenses with him. Parking costs, labor costs, certain things that were definitely like ridiculous expenses that cost a lot of money, like that you could both kind of split. Like I had a full-time employee, so at the end of the day, I'm paying a salary every single month to this, or every week to this employee. I made him pay me some of the salary, and she helped on his cars as well as my cars. Cars would get picked up and returned by me, by him, by her. It didn't matter whose cars we were picking up. We just combined our fleets, and we did the work together on our fleets, and then we split all the expenses at the end. And the way we did that was I did a reconciliation every month and see, like I saw if there were 100 trips between the two of us, and he had 60 and I had 40, he paid 60% and I paid 40% of the expenses. So it was good. It's just that it didn't work out great. So we have new terms that we're working on right now, which is interesting. But it did give me the ability to grow because I had a third person, and he was right near the airport, which is great.
So we're going to skip over real quick to, or go back to a different question that Patrick had put here, and then we'll go back up here to your original question from way in the beginning. But so Patrick said, "Hi, I just joined. Sorry if this has been asked before. Should I use an LLC or host personally? Also, is a minivan a good starter car?"
I'll answer that. Yes
Are
and
you getting
yes.
start? Are you wait? Have you not So I'm assuming he hasn't gotten started yet, right? Is what it sounds
Yeah.
like to you.
Yeah. And when you, Patrick, I don't know if it means you just joined Turo or you just joined the call or both, but I would say that, first of all, minivan's great. Get a minivan. If I had to make my recommendation, don't get a Dodge Caravan. Get a Chrysler Pacifica, a Honda Odyssey, or a Toyota Sienna. Get the best thing you could afford, because maintenance is not great. Like, you don't want to pay for maintenance. So you want the car to be able to be reliable. Honda Odyssey is going to be like the best one, I think. But with that, should I use an LLC or host personally? My account says Brian G on it. It's not, it doesn't show my LLC name, though I'm registered with Turo as an LLC, and all of my cars are in two. I have two LLCs. I have one LLC that owns all the cars, and one LLC that does all the business. The legal owner of all my cars is one LLC, and the other LLC is the registered owner of the cars. Kind of like when you buy a car from a bank, the legal owner is the bank and the registered owner is you. It protects all of my cars. So if something were to happen, which I'm not even really worried, but like if someone were to sue me, the registered owner business, the company that's doing all the business has no assets. They can only seize the money in the bank, I guess, if something were to happen. But like the other LLC owns all the cars. So all the cars are protected there. But on the Turo profile, I did not want to use my name. The name of my business is called Evergreen Loaners. We're in the Evergreen state, so Evergreen Loaners. And I didn't want to use my business name there because I really like the fact that Turo still is a personal thing. Like every host has their own flavor of how they do things. And I really wanted, when someone's messaging me, they see Brian G. They don't see Evergreen Loaners. I have co-hosts that have their names in the group too. So they can see that there's multiple people handling this. Like they may get a message from Celia. They may get a message from Andrew. They may get a message from Brittany. You know, it could happen.
I'm trying to think in terms of like, I'm trying to think of like the implications of doing it for one car.
Well, there is.
I guess it also depends on how you're getting the car, because the bank is not the bank would have to allow you to purchase the car under. You'd have to. Again, this assumes, I mean, you could be buying it cash for all we know. But that's something to consider too. Like you may not even have the option of putting it under your LLC if you're financing it as personally.
Yep. So that is good. So all these promotions that you see for interest rates and financing, they are for personal loans or personal leases, whatever any promotion you see advertises for personal, not for business. So as soon as you can't buy a car and register it under your business name and get that promotion, because it would become a commercial loan at that point. And then if the car is in that business name from the loan, you need a commercial insurance policy, which, by the way, tint is fine, and ABI, these are fine policies, except that the bank that's financing it may not want you to insure the cars with those companies. So, for example, a U.S. bank that insures my Tesla, one of my Teslas, they require me to have a $1,000 deductible, and if I insure the car with tint, which is Turo's insurance company that they use, or they recommend, there's a $2,500 deductible, so I don't meet the bank's criteria. By Mark. So you know, putting the cars under an LLC is important. Not important. It could be important, but like I would say that you want to make sure you can before you make a plan to do it. Like you might not be able to do it.
Yeah, I mean, and you can always just put it on personally, see how it goes, and not go through the trouble of creating an LLC and all that, and then realizing you don't like Turo. So you could just put it on, try it out, and then see, maybe plan for the next. If you do like it and you want to get a few more cars, then maybe you could start planning. Okay, how can I get all these onto an LLC and go that route?
Yeah, I mean, I have a couple of cars that are registered under my name, because I have one car now that's registered under my name because there's a loan on that car. It's financed. It happens to be the one that was. I have two cars. Sorry, one that was stolen, my Expedition, and then my Tesla. Those are my two cars that are financed.
Here says he has 3 cars on personal loans and 2 on business loans, and he has an LLC for the Turo business.
Yep, that makes sense, but none of the. So the ones that are on business loans, here, Robert, are those 3 cars on personal loans? Oh, 2 cars. You flashed the same thing. The 2 business loans, are those loans under your Turo's LLC, the one that you use? I suppose they are, yeah. Not that it matters, but I get it. Yeah, I mean, you have to figure out how you're going to get. I use a line of credit, so from the purchasing of the car itself, I'm purchasing it in essence cash. I'm writing a check for the car, so I don't have any constraints by a bank whatsoever. I have a line of credit that gives me the ability to. Thank you. I have a line of credit that gives me the ability to, register the cars however I choose.
Exactly. And you don't have that freedom if you're just going to the dealership and financing it personally.
Yeah.
And
Now,
you're not gonna really get a business loan if you typically they want 2 years worth of business records to be able to, finance you, for business
so
loans. So
I've been in communication with a banker at U.S. Bank, business relationship banker. He's very familiar with Turo. He helps finance one of the larger Turo hosts in the nation. And what he is able to do is write a business loan for you, but you have to guarantee the loan personally.
and
So,
that's
but
usually
but
required, a personal guarantee.
but what's happening is the business loan. So you don't need any records of you don't need any uh, uh, business records for 2 years or anything. What you do need to do is you do need to have every time you purchase a car, each time they'll need to run your credit. However, the loan itself will never show up on your personal credit. So you may have 5 inquiries and 5 loans on your business and 5 personal inquiries, but you won't. Your debt to income ratio, all of your money owed on your credit report will not reflect on your credit report. So I am very risk averse when it comes to credit. So I'm very hesitant to use a loan like that. And the interest rates are not bad. I think he told me it was somewhere in the 8.5% range. It's not great. You can get a personal loan for less, but when you're thinking about a business loan, it's not terrible.
I
But
think they also do typically require, like, it to be like a 36-month maybe term.
I haven't gotten that far with him. And
'Cause I know from, like, when I've reached out to those companies that if anybody's interested, like, Turo has all these companies listed, these financing companies listed on their partners, like, site that you can take a look at, and I have communicated with, like, 2 of these, and that's typically what they want. So that is something that if you're, hoping to get a lower payment to be able to maybe bring in a little bit more cash in the beginning, that's not gonna be as likely typically. I mean, you could find one that does allow a longer, and of course, longer is not ideal because you pay more interest, but if that's your only option in the beginning, if that's the only option to be able to get, you know, lower car payments so that you can then afford 2, 3, 4 cars as opposed to, "I can only afford 1 car now because my car payment's so high," because they only allowed, a 3-month, a 36-month term, then,
what
so
I'll say from experience is be very careful with debt. Um, I personally don't think I want to take on individual loans and manage all those loans. That's number one. And number two is like from my experience so far, finding a way to secure a line of credit is the most freeing way to have money. A line of credit allows you to pay interest only and not pay principal. So you're not locked to a high payment. And I will say that like that's dangerous, but if you're disciplined and you can follow the rules that you put in place for yourself, it works really well. So for example, here in Seattle, June, July, and August were 4 times the revenue of any other month. My best month, June, July, and August did 4x of that, 3.5x, right? So I was able to pay like $100,000 off of my line of credit just from the summer months. And in the winter months and the fall months, if things slow down, I have the choice to just pay interest only if I wanted to and not take down my principal. So I have the ability to like be free, like not be beholden to a payment. And I can actually create some cash flow when I don't have as much cash. So, I
Yeah, that's
try,
definitely ideal.
yeah. And we talked about this, Yuly, like every time I buy another car, I try to treat it like a 5-year loan on each one of them. I try to pay towards that line of credit every single month based on each individual purchase I've made as if it was a 5-year loan payment. I calculate what it would have been for a 5-year loan based on the interest rate of my line of credit, and I pay that every month at a minimum. And I haven't ever paid less than the minimum. So I've never used what I said is a great advantage, is being able to pay interest only. I've never taken advantage of that. However, as I'm coming into this month, this season, this slow, as I come into the slow season with 25 cars, we'll see. I know that I have that in my back pocket to be able to, fall back on.
Let's bring on this other question that we had here from before. So it says, sorry, noob question. What happens if the guest gets a speeding ticket during the trip? What steps should be taken based on all experiences? Thank you.
Well,
On y'all's experiences, I think.
yeah, go ahead, you answer that one.
Yeah, you basically just submit it. You're gonna get it probably a few weeks, a month after, maybe sometimes, and you just submit it as an incidental charge, and it'll get and they'll pay it.
Let me,
Hopefully, hopefully there's no battles.
P- Pierre Robert, tell us what market you're in while I'm answering this question. What I will say on this, Yuly, is I think more towards the question here would be, if it's a camera ticket, it doesn't go to your driving record because they can't prove who's driving the car. That's number one. So it'll just, the ticket will come in the mail, and you scan the ticket or take a picture of the ticket, upload it, and have the guest pay it, as long as you could verify that it was during the time of their trip. If the guest is literally in the car and they were served the ticket is to them and not to your car. So they can decide never to pay the ticket, and you'll never have a problem with it because they got the ticket, not you. I hope that helps.
You wouldn't really know, because so in my
You
case, I
never
could.
know. You would never know because it's not the car was ticketed at this point. It's them who was ticketed.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I've received a few parking tickets where people have just parked in garages they weren't supposed to park in, or
And we're right
there you go.
here. I get one in the mail at least 1 or 2 a week.
Yeah, so just make sure you scan it, upload it. You just go into the incidentals portion and just upload it. There's a little thing that says ticket, um, and yeah, they should be able to. I would, it's coming to your register to your tag, so I always go and pay it myself. I'm not gonna risk somebody, something getting delayed and something happening because it came to me, my name. So I always go ahead and take care of it, and then I request a reimbursement. I submit it to Turo so that the guest can pay it.
So could you?
But I'm not. Mhm.
Go ahead.
No, what'd you say?
I was going to switch to another comment that I saw. I was going to say highlight
Sure.
your.
Oh, okay, because 3 just came up.
I don't have a slow season. I'm in CT. So, and he doesn't have a slow season. So do you deliver to the airport? You deliver to JFK? I'm from New York, by the way.
He said, "Thank you for
So,
the information." You're welcome.
I'm super curious on his market and how that looks. I'd love to get more information. Like, you're in Connecticut. You don't have a slow season. Are you local pickup or airport?
He said, "No." In response to, I believe you said, "Do you deliver?"
To the airport. So he's local pickup in Connecticut. That's interesting. Okay, it's very interesting because I don't do any deliveries. Okay, interesting. So
Oh, wow.
I only do deliveries. I don't have any local pickup. So it's complete opposite, right? So
Both.
you can't run your business solo very differently. But then I also think that he made a comment earlier that he needs to get more cars. I think he said something like his guests want him to get more cars, like, and now I get it. He's local, so he's actually got a community of people who rent from him. You probably get a lot of repeat people. Is that correct? So not only that, but
It
he's
would make
getting,
sense if they're
yeah, and he's
Mhm.
probably getting people who are using his cars as vehicle replacements for the cars that are in the shop, or they just don't have a car and they rely on him to get local cars in place of an Uber. You know what I mean? Like just have a car for a
And
weekend.
sometimes people do rent, even locals rent cars to go on long trips because they don't wanna take their car, they don't trust their car, or they
Sure.
just don't wanna put miles on their own car, they have a lease, so many reasons.
Yeah, those are often people who are doing it one-offs. They don't rent it all the time. But I bet you he has people that are renting his car once a month. So
But I also wonder how many of those are just people who are flying in and don't want, because I also have those that are flying in and just don't wanna pay for the delivery, so they have a friend picking them up and they just, or actually have had a few that, he says, yes, a lot of repeats.
repeats,
I
yeah.
actually had a few that just didn't wanna deal with having to pay driving out of an airport, finding a car. They'd rather just get in an Uber and then, pick up. I had one who did that just because they were flying in the middle of the night, and they're like, "No, I just didn't wanna deal with the car at that time." Um, so yeah, just there's but it seems like for the most part, they're probably local for him.
Yeah.
And those are the ones that tend to, like, extend, right, and extend.
Yes, and I don't have any of that. That's something I'm inexperienced with is local people, like very few. In the winter I had a few people who repeated it over and over again, but once the summer came, I think they stopped dealing with me because once the summer came, my cars were so booked they couldn't get repeaters. 1% out of towners, 99% local. See, I'm the
But how do
exact.
you know are but is that based on always on their phone numbers or their, or because how do you know what percentage of those,
He's got
like, are
a
you
ID.
really far from an air
I do.
Yeah, well, the ID started recently, like, well, I'm guessing they're not, are they Turo Go cars? Because Turo Go, I all my extended, yeah, that tends to be, like, the local, um no, because, not too long ago, like, I didn't have to look at licenses up until recently for Turo
Really?
Go.
I didn't
Mhm.
really think about it. We had most of our cars were not Turo.
Oh, he asks.
Most,
He asks.
I would read the terms of service before you ask for an ID.
No, I think he says did you say ask for ID or did you say you ask if they're, like,
Okay,
from out of town?
yeah, I got it. If he asks if they're from out of town, that's different. Okay, I get it. Um,
No Turo Go out here yet. Huh.
huh? No, Pierre Robert, I don't know that that's the case. I think that there is Turo Go out there. You just may not have any cars that work with Turo Go. That's probably it. Because I only have, of my 25 cars, 4 of them work with Turo Go, and they're Teslas. So 6 of them work with Turo Go, and I don't. 2 of them I do not. I don't put them on Turo Go. It's too much of a pain in the ass.
Oh, no. He used to we won't even say it.
Be careful when
Um,
you take licenses from people because I think that it's. I'm pretty sure it's against the terms of services to ask people for their license outside of the app.
yeah. It doesn't even let you take a screenshot.
Yeah,
And it even tells you that you should, if somebody were to upload their ID onto the pictures, which they're not supposed to do anymore, that used to be the case, then you should just delete it from there so that it's not in there.
however, and then in Pierre Roberts' case, if you ever notice when they're um, when you're trying to do the ID verification, there's the button that says, "What if my guest does not give their ID?" and it tells you as if you're not doing a remote thing. No problem. When you meet your guest, you could ask them for ID in person. Then and only then you could take a picture of the app. So it also sounds like he has the opportunity to meet almost all of his guests in person too, because they're picking up the car locally, right? So
Yeah, which I despise doing. That's my least favorite. Like, if I yeah, thank God for Turo Go. And
We
the only time that I ever had that I ever have is like custom trips.
we do lock boxes on the car. So like we put a lock.
Well, yes.
Yeah. So right now I don't ask for licenses anymore. Yeah, just be careful. The terms of service on Turo, and Turo's like, I must say this on the. I think if Turo doesn't like the way you're performing on their platform, and they have the ability to get you off the platform, they're going to do it without any notice. Like so, and just keep in mind that every message that goes back and forth through Turo, they have the ability to read them all. So if they have someone who complained about you, there will be someone in your account reading those messages, and then they'll be looking for you to do something wrong. It's happened to other hosts that I know of. Period. And then you don't want to have to figure out what you're doing with your 5 cars. So I'd say just keep those terms of services in mind all the time, and keep the tone of the messages very friendly. Because if someone complains, I'm telling you, Turo is going to clean it up.
Someone says that I've been getting a lot of people with international licenses. Can we trust Turo's vetting process as we are not allowed to choose guests?
Yeah. So
I mean,
I have a lot of experience with that. You probably do too in your market, Yuly, right?
yeah, I mean, like I said, one of my cars is like probably 90% international, South American guests and European mostly.
We get plenty of international travelers too. Here's what I'll say quickly to keep an eye on. Keep an eye on the international driving permit. People have them. It's an international driving permit. If you fly internationally and you travel internationally, as a traveler, you may want to get an international driving permit. That is not a driver's license. So you can't accept that. That's number one. Turo will, as soon as I saw it once, it didn't say license. Or it didn't say, you could read the word license in many languages and decipher the word license, right? So there is an international driving permit. Do not allow that. It's
And
not.
real quick, I think he's saying he's referring to if Turo said it's okay with me. I think you're referring to the license, like the vetting process. And
Yep,
exactly, because
I
all
agree.
you want to do is cover your butt. So if something were to happen, I did what Turo said. So now Turo can't claim that I didn't do what I was supposed to do, and they want to deny my claim. That's all you really. I mean, of course you want to, but really, who's going to vet better, you or Turo?
I don't know how we do it all, but the way I do it is there's a chat link that I have, and I immediately go into the chat. I give them the guest reservation. I set it up. I give them my information.
Mhm.
Tell them I'm a host. They go into the guest reservation. They look at the ID, and then they'll tell me that the ID is a good ID or a bad ID. If it's a good ID, I take a screenshot of the entire chat that I have with Turo and upload that chat to the trip immediately. So Turo telling me that I can approve the driver's license gets uploaded to the trip. The
They
only
usually send you an email immediately once they
I
do that.
ask them to do that, and often I don't get the email. So,
Really? Because I did it twice this week, so maybe it's something that they're starting to do,
well,
and they're like,
Yuly,
"Okay."
you
But
know
no,
already.
I took the screenshot anyway.
I have a shit ton of email filters, so I might have gotten the email and just don't know
Oh, yeah,
what
yeah.
what what.
No, and I do the screenshot too, because at the end of the day, what if you didn't get the email and now it's, "Oh, well, you didn't get the email," you know? As a matter of fact, I read something recently about that, and this is separate, but it goes to the whole just always cover your butt. And recently when I was making all those changes, changing all my percentages, I had heard some people saying that they had changed them and then it changed back. And I actually saw it happen on a few of mine. So I actually went through and I changed, and this is going back to what we talked about in the beginning with the discounts. I went through and I changed them on. I took screenshots of every car so that if they let out another car at 70% discount, I'm gonna call them and say, "Look, my thing was set to," you know. But anyway, yeah, yeah. It So this week, coincidentally, I had two not international. They were I don't remember what one was, and another one was just from another state. But they were temporary licenses. And it tells you there specifically when you're clicking through, which I wish this is another one I wish Turo would clean up. It tells you there, make sure it's not expired and make sure it's not a temporary. I don't know if it says license. I don't even think that's the thing. I don't think it specifies license or permit. It just says temporary. Make sure it's not temporary. Make sure it's not expired. So I went into the chat and I said, "Hey, I have a temporary, because if you go to the support thing, it says, well, it can't be a temporary permit, which is like a paper. But I mean, what if I'm wrong? What if I read wrong? And now they said, well, no, it specifically says there permit, temporary, and you said that it's not, and it clearly is. And now, I did something wrong. So I messaged them. I had them go in and check. They look themselves. They said, okay, it's approved. Great. We'll send you an email right away. Thanks. Okay, perfect. Then coincidentally, it happened. I think this is only the two times it's ever happened within and it was this week. And so I went in, I did the second one, and I was like, you know what? Am I gonna have to do this every single time? Or can I just verify that if it's a license, it just happens to be temporary license, that I could just like okay this myself? Because imagine if you start getting, but then I'm like, okay, stop getting lazy. Just call them, just message them. But yeah, I mean, they gave me a bunch of, well, if and I said, but do you do something other than look at it yourselves? Like, do you run it through a system? Then it's like, yeah, we do check which we could do too. I mean, we could run it, make sure it's, a valid license, whatever. But she's like, yeah, we do check it. And I think she said 2 spots. I saved the chat. So yeah, I guess for now, I'll just be messaging them whenever I get that so they can verify.
That's the best way. I think I found,
No.
sorry, I'm slightly distracted. I think I just found the reason why my phone was connected. It kept connecting.
Well, I'm sure everybody that's been here the whole time is super happy about that.
I am, at least. It distracted me for half this whole call. But we'll see. I'm turning off my airplane mode. We'll see what happens. I'm still here. Okay.
Let's bring this up real quick. And then I don't know how much longer you want to go, but this was from way in the beginning. But since we were answering other ones, so this is when he was asking about the co-hostings. He's like, what do you think the split should be?
70-30.
Some hosts do 40-60, 60-40.
It's so Turo has a co-hosting program in place already for select hosts in select markets. It is a 70-30 split. The way I do it is for one car, 60-40, meaning the owner of the car gets 60, I get 40. If you give me more than one car, it'll be a 65-35 split. And if you give me more than 3 cars or 4, depending on how I make it, it would be a 70-30 split. 70-30 is fair. You have to think about what it takes. I understand that it's a lot of work, but you have to think about what it takes to, or what the owner of the car is going to get as his cut by giving up 30 or 35 or 40%. So it has to be worth it to them. It also has to be worth it to you. And I would say that the only way to take on co-hosted cars is when you already have a system in place and you have a stable base of cars paying your bills. Because what the co-hosting part of the car does is, as you start adding more cars on, the cost per car keeps coming down. You're spreading all your expenses out over more cars. So it helps bring your overhead down until you get to a breaking point where you have to hire another person. So I would say that 70-30 is the split that works. It works for me. All my cars are on,
but not at one car.
One car, I mean,
3 to 4.
Like an experiment.
At one car, you said the 60-40.
Yeah, I mean, I would offer 60-40 at one car. It's an experiment at that point.
And I mean, we could probably,
not an
we could probably get into.
Not an experiment for the host, experiment for the person who's giving you the car. I don't mean an experiment to you. The person who's giving you the car, the goal is, by the way, I'm sorry to stop you, Yuly. I just want to have 10 different people give you 10 different cars is a lot of work. Have one person give you 10 cars is easy. You have to pay 10 people and then answer 10 different opinions on questions and how this has happened. That's a lot of work. You don't want, the idea is to, I know that people may want to give you a car, 60-40 is fine, like, right? But like the goal is to have them want to give you another car. the goal is to find people who have access to many vehicles, not just one. Right. So, like, I took 2 Teslas from the body shop owner that's next door to where I am, and he's been so successful with them. He's now asking me what other cars he could buy. Should he go buy a used Tesla? Should he go do this? Should he go do that? And I want him to add more Teslas. That's all I want now, are more Teslas from him. Like, I want more Teslas. Oh, by the way, I think they're the best cars. One of the best cars put on Turo. Maintenance free, practically. They work with Turo Go. They're people desire them. But yeah, sorry.
No, that's awesome. But I mean, to go a little bit more, since this is valuable for him, but also for anybody else that's listening, what would be so that's 7, so it's you said, let's go back to the one car, right? 60/40.
Yep.
That's off the top, right? Is that
So
off earnings?
the car earns $1,000 a month. So in the month of September, the car earned $1,000, 60/40. The host, meaning you, takes 40%, $400 immediately. Then the next thing is the $600 that's left. You had to put a bouncy on the car for GPS tracking. You pay for the insurance under your commercial policy. So the bouncy is $10 a month. The insurance is $90 a month. That's another $100. So now you're getting $400, and you owe the host so far $500 because you took $100 off of his $600. So any expenses comes directly out of his cut. It doesn't come off the top and then you split it. You split first, and then the expenses come off the host. And the way you explain it to the person who's investing in the cars, look, if you want to invest in these cars and run them on Turo yourself, you're paying these expenses right off of the top. Well, my 40% or 30% or whatever the percentage is paid to me for doing all the work. All the maintenance and everything else of that comes off on your end, just like you were going to pay it on your end normally. I shouldn't be responsible for paying part of your maintenance. I shouldn't be responsible for paying part of your tracking, your insurance. These are things that you need. With that said, as I'm describing this, the 60/40 split, if the car earned $1,000, they're only getting $600. So there's going to be $150 a month of expenses on the car, probably. Whether you're paying the insurance or he is, like, it's still coming out of his pocket somewhere, or her pocket. Like, 70/30 is better if you want to get more cars. It's not a great scenario for the owner of the car, the 60/30. And if it doesn't sound good to you, if it doesn't sound great to you, then you have to build enough income, meaning getting more cars, or getting to a point where 70/30 sounds right. Because 70/30 didn't sound great to me when I had 5 or 6 cars. Go ahead.
And I'm assuming if you do it, I guess some people get even more granular, or if they don't do it off the top, then they, for example, I'm assuming doing it at the top it includes, delivery fees, includes extras. So does that include extras?
I don't. So delivery fees. So the way Turo actually has an agreement in place for all this stuff that I look at. But so delivery fees, I don't believe the owner of the car should get. The only extra that the owner of the car should get, in my opinion, is they should get 100% of the unlimited mileage.
Of unlimited miles.
Yep. If someone adds unlimited miles,
because it makes sense because it's coming out of the car's,
100%, not 70%. If you collected $100 in the month on unlimited mileage, Turo will give you 90, and all 90 of it should go to the owner of the car. You're literally depreciating their asset, and you need to help that in every way. It's also good faith,
right,
to show them that you're not
right. I think
stepping on.
it's yeah.
So, but of the split, the late fees.
I think that would be the same thing as. Sorry, I was gonna say, I think that would be the same thing as, like, let's say, a car seat. So a car seat is being used and it's being depreciated, and so I would assume that the car seat would go to whoever owns it. I mean, if obviously if the owner brought the car seat, then it's their asset being depreciated. But
I
if
never even
you are
considered
putting
it that
your
way.
extras,
Yeah.
right?
So when I don't have that many co-hosted cars, but my rules are like I won't take your car seat at all. I don't want that. You keep the car seat, sell the car seat on Facebook Marketplace. I don't care what you do. It's my car seats. I've got 15 car seats at this point. Like I've
You need to
invested in
put them.
car seats. I'm getting all the extra revenue from the car seats. There's no ifs, no ands, no buts about that. Strollers. I've got strollers. I've got car seats. That's all we do. We don't have much more. A little trick I've done is I've put my cars on unlimited mileage, which I don't do anymore, but I've offered unlimited miles, and then I've also charged for it at the same time. And Turo, I don't think they block that. So I've had my cars on unlimited miles and then added an extra $5 a day for unlimited miles, and people put it on anyway. So it was an extra way to pick up $20 or $30 extra on a rental. But
We don't want to
I
say that.
limit my mileage now to 200 or 250, depending on the car. So right now I charge for unlimited miles depending on the car. Like my Porsches, I charge $20 a day. For my Elantra, I charge $10 a day. My Elantras, my Spark, $10. The economy cars I charge like $10 a day. The higher end vehicles I charge 20, or my Land Rover I charge $25 a day. My Mercedes, big Mercedes SUV, my GLS, I charge $25 a day. I've even had it at $30 a day. And honestly, I don't want the money. I don't want them to do the overmiles. I want to protect those cars. You know, one repair on a Mercedes GLS is not cheap. So like the maintenance is just expensive, period. Like, it takes 9 quarts of oil. My Elantra takes 4. So it's double the cost
Definitely
for
a
oil.
lot of little things to.
And my Elantra, I use Kirkland synthetic oil, which is great. It's cheap. And I use Mobil 1 synthetic on my Mercedes. It's just what I'm doing. So everything costs more money. And I'm doing an oil change on my Mercedes every month, I mean.
Yeah, so hopefully we can get this app going. And I just there's so many little things that I wish I already had, and I keep saying, oh, if only I had already put it in there.
So
many
Yuly's working
little
on an
things.
app that I'm excited for, and I'm very engaged with her. She's a great person regardless, and she's great to talk to. So that's one thing. But like, this app is what actually connected us. And like for me, like just being able to track maintenance on the app is huge. But like tracking your day-to-day tasks, all the things that you need to do, the Turo app is, especially if you have 5 cars or more, the Turo app is very hard to follow what's happening on a day-to-day basis. So she's created like a whole new dashboard where you can look at not only the trips that are starting in the day and ending in the day separately, so it's not in a feed. You can look at the trips that are going out, the trips that are coming in, but you can also look at the trips that are in progress, which is huge because in the Turo app, if a car went out yesterday and it's coming back, you have to scroll until you find that car or filter by the car, which takes time. Like, so in this dashboard, you can literally just look at what's in progress and see that Porsche Macan is booked for 6 days, and you don't have to sit there and scroll. You could just then go right to that day now and see what's happening on that day. Often it's important to me when a car is getting returned, when it's going out again. How much time do I have to clean that car and get it fixed and ready to go and redeliver it again? So it gives you all this ability to see what's going to happen next and what's happening now.
So many views I wish I had. Like, for instance, like Pierre was saying, sometimes he doesn't have a car. Well, that means that you're constantly looking to see which car you have or which car you're going to have next Friday, or and that's one of the views that I created quickly, which was like, okay, I just want to see where all my cars are right now. Okay, well, this one's in maintenance. This one's these 4 are, are on trips. These, other ones are they have a recall.
I'll tell you what's valuable for me. Like, there's a day here and there where I'm working by myself. There are many days where I'm working by myself, and I want to look at that day and see what I have available that I can get home in. Right? Like, what's available in this day? Like, just boom, what's available. Now you have the big calendar view. Good luck looking at that. Like, by the way, I use the Turo big calendar view all the time. I never use individual calendars. But when you're looking at something sometimes specific, it's very hard to find. I have 5 cars. My
Oh,
sister has 13 cars. My brother has 2
a
cars.
Turo family.
That's why he
That's
said.
awesome.
That's why he said. I think my family is getting hot about something or the new rules.
Okay.
He,
That
he's
makes more sense.
surrounded by
I mean,
Turo
it
talk.
still made sense because
What does Thanksgiving dinner look like at his house?
yeah, right?
Oh
They're
boy.
throwing food because of the new updates.
Yeah. Aftermarket warranties have saved my revenue. Um, I have it on one of my cars. I only have one warranty on cars. Do you have a connection with a dealer that writes you the warranties at wholesale, or you pay full price for these warranties? Curious. Um, so I have a guy in New
So
York who could. I started. That started because of me.
it started because
I have a guy in
yeah,
New York.
it gets addictive, right?
Huh?
It's addictive. I mean, look at Brian.
Yeah,
2 cars, 4 cars, 25 cars.
yeah, yeah. Cars are very expensive in Canada. Where in Canada? What province are you in? He's in. He is in Ontario. That's what my guess is. Toronto. So he's in Ontario, right? You're in Ontario. Um, no full price, about $70 per car. $70 per car. What do you mean $70 per car? That doesn't make sense. Oh, aftermarket warranty for $70 a car? I'm thinking of something different than what you're thinking.
Yeah.
Aftermarket warranty for $70?
What does that cover?
What does it cover? What are we talking about here? What warranty? That's crazy. I mean, like, I have a warranty on my Expedition, which cost me almost $2,000 for a 60,000 mile 5-year warranty. But I think we're talking about a different warranty for $70 with Car Shield.
Yes, with Car Shield.
All right. Dr. Google is going to help me with this one. Car Shield. Car Shield.
Brian, we're about to hit 2 hours again.
Oh my God.
I assume
I say we should break. I would like to resume this again maybe in the next week. If you folks want to join us again, that would be great. I think I want to dig into this app that you're building too a little bit more next week. And
I'll definitely be doing it weekly because I have to be doing my weekly live streams. But and yes, hopefully, I mean, sometimes we can even if there's a day you didn't make it to one and you want to hop on, I mean, hopefully you're there for all of them. That'd be amazing.
yeah,
But I'm just definitely gonna try to push myself to do weeklies and yeah, we can chat a little bit more. And you guys, if you're interested, so I'm kind of brainstorming, um, starting potentially. I was thinking, and Brian, you and I haven't had even a chance to talk about my last thoughts, but um, trying to start like a membership. I'm gonna do a free membership, and then there'll be a separate paid with certain features and things. And but if you guys are interested in at least Pierre says, Yuly, I need your app. I need it too. I just need time to finish it. And I mean, I'm almost there. I mean, there's a lot in it already. So what I'm thinking, and then again, I'm just getting these lives going. Brian and I have been talking about the app for a while. I've been working on it on and off. So, but one of the things I'm really trying to do is two things. One is get this app out to a few people to start, playing with it, testing it, um, starting a free membership where, we can hopefully get a big Turo community where people come on, sort of what you have now with, they're on Reddit and they're on Facebook, and but hopefully build like a nicer, platform where everybody's on there. Then you could have all obviously your sub, categories. So hey, here's the Miami, here's the, I know somebody asked recent in the last one about, I think they said Colorado. Um, and then we'll have, the ideas to hopefully have a paid membership side, which will include things like for the people that have purchased, eventually purchased the app. It'll be, the updates. It'll be able to request specific, functionality, specific tweaks. Um, Same thing with like what we talked about earlier, SOPs that, we've been working on, like checklists for, when you're onboarding a car, um, when you're onboarding a co-hosted car, what are you having to ask them? It'd be nice if you could just submit this nice little packet that you give over to the person and say, hey, this is what how it's going to work. This is what I do for you. This is what I'm going to need from you to begin with. Um, this is what you'll get every month. This is a sample of a report you're going to get every month. All these things. And then also the reports, those need to be automated. You can't be sitting there having to, manually create these reports for your 20 co-hosted cars to each co-host. I mean, that's just insane. Um, the maintenance, I mean, that's huge too. So going back to, so in these memberships, that's what I'm hoping to be able to like include these templates, these SOPs. Um, so yeah, if these are any, anything that you guys would, love to get feedback and your thoughts, anything you think would be helpful. And as far as the app, yes, I mean, I'm super excited and can't wait. I mean, Brian and I have talked so much about it, and right now we're obviously I'm trying to just do like basic features. I mean, right now, I mean, it's way past basic, but well, because when he and him when he and I speak, we go way far out there. Like, we go way past the basic stuff, and we're talking like analytics. Like, we want the app to tell us like what car we should get rid of next, in the next 6 months, and what car we should buy. I mean, and that's like in the future. But for now, currently, it holds all your cars. It's it stores your maintenance, stores all your information for, you know the filter, the oil filter, the type of, this and that. One of the things that I want to incorporate soon is, because I'm running into it, every car that I've added on recently has like a different little tweak, right? So like these automated messages, I haven't even been able to set them up yet because they're not, it's not great. So now I have an airport that has a specific place you have to park in. So now that's different from the
Garage,
other airport. Huh?
the Cypress Garage.
Yeah, so there's that. There's whether it's a lockbox, whether it's Turo Go, whether it's remote unlock. Um, then in my case, I have a lot of Spanish guests, so that I'm actually speaking to. I mean, they just start speaking in Spanish, so I have to reply in Spanish. So I immediately, as soon as they say, they speak to me in Spanish, I have my Spanish message ready to go. So every message that I have in English, I then have translated as well in Spanish. So I have all these little parts, right, that make up the automated message. And the more I think so, then you have the home one, then you have the, home booking, home return, home. I mean, there's so many little parts. So the app, which I started on it already because I got so frustrated this past week, on this part of it, is each car will have this. So you'll be able to put this data. So, this is the airport. This airport automated message. This is this car's delivery method, right? And obviously, you can change it. It could now go from a lockbox to a whatever. But whatever that is, as soon as it gets booked, the app is just going to give you that automated message, and you could just copy and paste it. For those that you can't currently do in Turo, Turo isn't that granular right now. Um, so things like that. Brian, I mean, there's so many other things, but I'm drawing a blank now. Like the
That's a
top.
whole.
Well,
Why don't we say that that's a whole other live stream
yeah,
and do
because
some Q&A on that?
well, maybe we can show a little bit of
That's on you.
next time.
you
Huh?
that's on you. But and by the way, Pierre Robert, now it makes more sense when you said $70. It's $70 a month, so it's costing you like $850 a year. So when I said I put an extended warranty on a car for $2,000 over 5 years, I would say my warranty wins. But I get what you're saying. So it's that makes sense. $70 a month.
He said, "Thank you for the wealth of knowledge, friends." And said, "Appreciate all of this. Thank you guys. Thank you guys so much for hanging out with us." And he said,
Yeah,
"Yuly, I need your app."
thanks
Yes,
for
I'm
sticking
super
around.
excited.
It's
Next,
been 2 hours. My God, it went by. It was sunny out. Now it's dark.
I know I had to remind you we're almost at 2 hours. Otherwise, this is why our phone calls were always so long.
Yeah, 3 hours of time, 2 hours of time, no problem. I talk to this woman all the time, so it's all good. So thank you.
And I'll bring up this funny one where he said, "Yes, please, airplane mode." That's for you, Brian.
I figured it out. Just saying, I figured it out. If anyone wants to know, there's a feature called continuity on the Apple iPhone that allows you
Oh,
to
that's
connect.
what was happening.
Yeah, continuity mode off. Thank you. So I love you all.
All
Turo,
right. Well, thank you all so much that are here. You guys that have hung out with us the whole time. Super awesome. Thanks for all the questions. This is super fun.
yeah.
And for those that are watching the awesome.
What I will
Your
say
audience, nice.
on his Turo just sent me a payment. The last thing I'm going to say, and then I'm leaving. When I will say that, and this is just a fact, not a brag, but like once you hit 20 cars, you get a payment every day. It's just hard not to, and and you know you could start saying, oh, that's a low payment. Oh, that's a high payment. Oh, that was good. So every single day you get a payment, and on Monday you get all three of the weekend payments. You get you get three payments. You get the Monday payment, the Saturday and the Sunday payment too. So yeah, you'll get
And
it'll
yeah,
be
in future,
good.
sorry, go ahead. I was saying future, that reminded me that in future live streams, we want to plan for what you wanted to do last time, which is um show your show like a portion of like your QuickBooks to show people like what you're doing in there, which obviously eventually the app will, and we talked about this, will probably replace. But for now, but you have to have it somewhere, right? And so for those of you that aren't even doing anything or doing it on a spreadsheet, just kind of go through and show how, every car it's its own, P&L in essence.
I'm happy to do a quick deep dive into not a deep dive, but a quick overview, we'll say, of my QuickBooks. Yeah. All right,
All
folks.
right.
It's later on the East Coast, but it's 6:37 here, 6:38 here, and I've got to go have dinner.
All right. Thank you so much, everyone. Thanks, Brian. Talk to you soon.
Bye, everyone.
Take care. Bye bye.